Achieving a berth into the series semi-finals, their momentum did not stop there, with amazing comebacks against Thermidor 2 and Dominator 2 respectively to earn themselves a place in the grand final, where it would find itself against yet another giant of the Robot Wars world, Hypnodisc. By this point, Hypnodisc was a much improved robot from its first appearance, and that was the same robot that managed to get to the final. So to the eyes of many, it seemed that Hypnodisc was not only a given for the final, but was most likely the favourite to win the entire series, especially given that the previous series champion Chaos 2 returned to this series with a virtually unchanged robot. This would have been the timeline of events that made the most sense. But we are never in a timeline that makes sense. What would occur instead would be the greatest underdog story in the history of UK robot combat. Pussycat's first attack on Hypnodisc could not have been more accurate if you tried. The blade would perfectly hit on the right rear wheel of Hypnodisc, locking it in place and putting the latter into a permanent crab walk. It then used Hypno's limited mobility to its advantage by shoving it into the CPZ, where Shunt would have its own greatest moment in the history of the show, landing an axe blow onto the giant spinning disc and stopping it immediately. All of the fear that Hypnodisc's gigantic weapon relayed over so many other competitors in that series was completely and utterly wiped out in 1 second. And Pussycat landed themselves a place in the Series 4 final. But sadly, that was about as far as the machine would end up going, as it would lose a very one-sided fight against Chaos 2. But nobody who watched that grand final at the time will say that Pussycat were lucky. They ended up fighting all 3 of the big 3 of Robot Wars and fairly defeated 2 of them, a feat that may never be matched again in a heavyweight context.